It's always at night when I'm sitting here minding my own business, making clips of things. Goddamn, this lipstick that I got is good lipstick because I put this on like 7 hours ago. It's still there. I was just sitting here minding my own business. And I don't think this is going to be a very long stream, but we're going to give people just a second or so to file in. Because I have some questions. I have some questions about why Daddy Lindsay is telling his followers to block my audience. And he is overtly. I think that us trying to get James to say the word capitalism has, well, triggered him just slightly. If James thinks this is going to trigger him, just wait until James sees what I've got in my head right now that I'm going to hopefully execute this week. He's really going to be triggered then. Yes, James is big mad because we've been telling him to say capitalism. And this is a gross offense in the land of James Lindsay. And one has to question why that is. Why is James so hell-bent on not saying the word capitalism that he's now having a big old triggered show on Twitter? It must be capitalism phobia. James is capitalism phobic. Our star of the show is here tonight. Congratulations, Reagan, on getting that block. You've been working hard on that one. But I have to say, Reagan didn't just get blocked by James. Reagan was, and you guys know Reagan. Reagan doesn't troll. Reagan doesn't shitpost. Reagan is like the nicest person in the world. Even when I'm trying to instigate, Reagan is always the person there that's like, she's just nice and welcoming. And Reagan welcomes all the new people into the chat. And she's just always so pleasant. She is our chief organizational officer because Reagan really likes organizing things and she's very good at it. She likes spreadsheets. Reagan puts stuff in the Unwoke wiki. If you were to create an archetype of just a lovely, pleasant person to be around who never trolls, who never shitposts, who I never have to yell at. I don't think I have ever yelled at Reagan in the history of this channel, and she's been around a long ass time. It is Reagan. Reagan is one of those people that just beautiful. And so it's ironic that James Lindsay is not only blocking Reagan for trying to explain queer theory to his audience, because she wasn't being a bitch about it. She was doing it in a perfectly delightful way. James Lindsay also used Reagan, of all people, to send out a shitpost to his audience demanding that his audience block her for teaching people queer theory. And I don't know, maybe he sent out other tweets too. I haven't looked at my burner account tonight to see what he's doing. All I know is that I just got alerted to the fact that James Lindsay is demanding that people block my audience because of Reagan. Say her name, James. Say her name. Public enemy number one. Nobody messes with Hunter Biden's cocaine stash girlfriend if Reagan remembers him. Exactly. Oh, Brissy. Just wait. I have them. Don't worry. Oh, in fact, let's just get right into it. Let me pull up. So, okay, so what happened? What happened today? Hang on, I have to get this. Now, I don't even know what James was tweeting here, if I'm honest. Oh, wait, no, I do have. Oh, god damn it. Okay. So, James tweeted something about it's time for everyone to learn queer theory. Okay, let me show you what happened. Not that one, that one. So you have to imagine down here, because now James has blocked Reagan, and James blocked me a long time ago, but sometimes there's a bug in Twitter where you can still see it. Hang on, let me see if I can refresh and the bug will kick in. No, still blocked. Okay, so basically, this is actually, let me see if I can do this. Hang on. Let me get the full maze. I didn't actually look at this earlier. Let me look at this in my burner account so I can find the actual thing that James tweeted and then make sure that I'm not showing you my burner account because I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Let me see. Okay. So, here is what James tweeted. If we're going to tell the story, we have to go back to the start of the story, which is a very good place to start. Here is what James tweeted. Time everyone understands queer theory. Did he follow up to that? Okay. Queer theory is a Marxist theory of normalcy and legitimacy. That is, it's a belief that some people privilege themselves by designating themselves as normal and their ideas as legitimate, as to exclude others who are deviant, perverse, and queer. Not exactly, James, but okay, we'll go with it for the second. That's not exactly how it's applied in the real world, but we'll let you have your academic philosophizing for a moment. If you want to learn about queer theory, buy my book. Seriously, James. So, everyone needs to understand about queer theory. Give some scholarly definition of queer theory that is not reflective of what the real world definition is of queer theory. Then says, if you want to learn more, buy my book. The big points about queer theory that you need to take home are it's the doctrine of a religious cult. No. It's based on sex. Wrong. It primarily targets children. Wrong. It has little to do with being gay. Correct. In fact, some might argue, as I would, it has nothing to do with being gay. Let me make these a little bit bigger so people can see them better. Has nothing to do with being gay. Has nothing to do with being trans. It's a Marxist theory of normalcy. Yes. It's supported by woke institutions. Well, why is that, James? Could that be because activists are working in those institutions? We can go into that one a little bit more later. Explaining how queer theory is the doctrine of a religious cult probably takes the most work, but it can be done succinctly. Really, James, it can be done succinctly because your efforts up until this point, bro, don't seem to indicate that you are capable of doing anything succinctly. Rottweiler's already chiming in with, it targets everyone because it's about liberating everyone from capitalism. Holy shit. Oh my God. But remember, Rottweiler, James Lindsay is incapable of saying the word capitalism. He can't say it. His handlers won't let him. So he can't say that. Instead, he has to have a 28 tweet thread defining queer theory without talking about capitalism. It's literally 28 paragraphs to explain what Carlin put on one image in 2 sentences. It believes they know the true nature of humans. They're queer, which means the opposition to the norms. Everyone is the exception to the rule. Yeah, that's this opposition to the norm thing is more or less correct. He's got that right. Cult members believe society stabilizes people in order to believe in normalcy. Normalcy means capitalism, and legitimacy, also capitalism, and conditions them to reproduce this in their own lives. Guys, what is this called right here? When something conditions you to reproduce A societal system of normalcy? What is this called when something conditions you to reproduce a societal system of normalcy? No, Tayton. What is it called when something condition? Yes. Is that social reproduction theory, James? Is that social reproduction theory? Is that the social reproduction problem? What is society reproducing, James? Is that social reproduction theory? What does that mean, James? What is the basis of social reproduction theory, bro? What is the very basis of it? What is the left worried about society, specifically the nuclear family in this context? What are they worried about the left reproducing? It's social reproduction theory. Social reproduction theory. Here it is, James. What my audience can explain that you apparently cannot explain in 28 paragraphs. When you say normalcy, James, what that means is normal society reproduces capitalism. That's what that means, bro. That's literally what social reproduction theory is. Society reproduces capitalism through the nuclear family and education. It's about reproducing capitalism. Why isn't James saying that? Why isn't he saying that? Hang on one second. I'm getting the green screen, the freaking screen of death on my computer. Hang on one second. Sorry. My video editing program froze as soon as I went live, and now it's trying to recover itself, and I really needed to recover itself because I was making clips before this. Anyway, let's go back to this. So James is saying the conditions to reproduce this in their own lives and to enforce it on their lives of others, including down to the very fundamental matters of identity, like their sexes and sexualities. Well, James, those are based on capitalism, bro. They also believe that by having learned or adopted queer theory and queer activism, that they have broken free from this conditioning, true, and understand humanity better than everyone. Well, kind of, but not really. They're gnostically elected in queer Gnosticism. They know the true hidden nature. James Lindsay is literally saying that queer theory is Gnosticism. Can we just all reflect on that for a moment? Before James Lindsay explains to people that queer theory is about abolishing capitalism, he is literally trying to convince them that it is a religious cult based in Gnosticism. James, if you wonder why it takes you 28 paragraphs to say something when it takes me 2 sentences to say it, it's because you are obsessed with Gnosticism, bro. And it's really sad because you don't even understand what it is, James. We know that because we watched you try to explain it on Friday. You don't understand what it is, bro. Their objective is to get everyone to become a cult member so that we can be liberated from the harmful and oppressive lies of normalcy. What does James really mean when he says the harmful and oppressive lies of normalcy? And legitimacy and the illegitimate power of the people who claim a hold on normalcy and legitimacy. When everyone believes it, it's true. Pop quiz for my chat. What does James mean when he says liberated from the harmful and oppressive lies of normalcy? What you mean, James, is liberated from capitalism. That's what you mean, bro. That's what we're talking about. You're talking about the system of capitalism, bro. Capitalism. Capitalism. The system of normalcy is capitalism, James. He said Gnosticism before capitalism. That's exactly right. And this is the problem. If people wonder why I'm haranguing his ass, and I will continue to harangue your ass as long as I goddamn well please, James, I have earned that, bro. I've done just as much work wading through thousands of hours of this socialist leftist training as you have. I have earned my right to harangue your ass on this when you are lying to and misleading your audience. He is literally saying Gnosticism before he says the word capitalism. He still hasn't said the word capitalism in this thread. And all of this is relevant to why he is telling people to block Reagan and my followers. Hang on, I didn't mean to show that, sorry. Queer theory thus not only meets the definition of Gnostic and Hermetic, we're still going, theosophical cult based on sex and sexuality, it also meets the 1A requirement, a system of belief and practice answering fundamental questions of life such that it gives rise to duties of conscience. What the fuck does that even mean? James, I got to tell you, I have spent the better part of the last year and a half listening to queer Marxism several times a week, bro. What you said, this is completely unhinged from reality. I don't know how bad that head injury's gotten, James, and I'm very sorry about that. I'm not trying to make fun of it. I'm not trying to make light of it, but we all know that you hit your head really badly some years ago, and I think we're seeing the ramifications of that right now. And I don't say that with any sort of glee or any of that. It's tragic. It sucks because you're a fucking genius, bro. You are a genius. What you have done is invaluable, but this makes no fucking sense, James, and everyone's got to stop pretending that it does. This is serious, and it's about more than just your ego, James. People need to actually understand what is going on in the world, or they're going to lose their kids. I'm going to say that again. When you pull this bullshit and you make this all about some Gnostic fucking cult, normal people do not understand what you're talking about. We don't understand what you're talking about. And we watch dozens of hours of this bullshit every single week. And normal people are going to lose their kids as a result of your irresponsibility, James. Like, people might think I'm just starting a feud to start a feud, and I'll admit there's some fun aspects to it. There really is. There are some fun aspects to it. And certainly I'm working out my feelings over years of realizing just how much bullshit James sold me, even though he taught me a lot of good stuff too at the very beginning. I'll always be thankful for that. I will never diminish the work this guy has done. But the fact of the matter is I'm not just starting a feud just for the sake of starting a feud. This is goddamn irresponsible. People are losing their children, and James Lindsay's answer to that is to say they're part of a Gnostic fucking cult. This is unhinged. This is not real. And I understand why people who don't watch dozens of hours a week of this stuff like we do might look at this and say, okay, maybe that makes sense in some weird way. And maybe even James is doing this fucking artful thing where he's trying to position himself as having as being the possessor of the secret knowledge. Does it seem to anyone else like James Lindsay is actually positioning himself right now to be the possessor of the secret knowledge? Because this is like the possession of the secret knowledge, James. I can listen to dozens of hours of far leftists and queer Marxists talk about this stuff every single week. They ain't going to say anything that remotely resembles this. You're the one acting like you have hidden knowledge, James. And just purely coincidentally, you're telling people in your audience to block my audience when my audience is coming in and going, let's just hinge this back into reality just like a little bit. Queer theory is a cult religion, and if you think it's anything else, you've completely missed the point. Seriously, this is now like the seventh or eighth tweet in which James Lindsay has spent saying, it's a cult, it's a cult, it's a Gnostic cult, it's a Gnostic cult. The most important thing you need to know about queer theory is it is a Gnostic cult. What the fuck? We're trying to help and educate, not start a gasoline fire. What? No, I'm starting a fucking gasoline fire. I am starting a gasoline fire. I am sitting back. I'm spraying it with the lighter fluid. I'm throwing the fucking match. I'd say a book could be written explaining how and why that's true, but that's exactly why we just wrote and published a book. So James is telling people that his entire book is about how queer theory is a Gnostic cult. Bro. That queer theory is a cult is based upon sex, wrong, in both meaning and word, is undeniable. Well, James, I can deny it. I can deny it. And do you know how I can deny it, James? Because I have on this channel hundreds of hours of queer Marxists in the real world talking about their ideas, James. Now, I know it's profitable to you to convince people that this is all a groomer pedo cult because you coined the term groomer. And now everything has to be a groomer pedo cult in order for your brand to uphold and your narrative to take hold. But on my channel, we have watched hundreds of hours of queer Marxists, of literally the people who wrote the book Transgender Marxism, explaining their ideas. We have watched leftist gender trainings all over the country explaining their ideas. And what I know is that it is not grounded in sex. It is grounded in the abolition of the gender binary, which is an attack on capitalism and the nuclear family. That is what queer theory is grounded in. Simplification is the ultimate sophistication. Yeah, that's kind of what I think too, Human Centipede. Let us pray for Logan Lansing falling victims to James Gnosticism, lol. Well, Logan Lansing could have looked at primary source evidence anytime he wanted to, and he refused to. It's not as though we didn't try to show him primary source evidence. It's that Logan Lansing and James Lindsay refuse to look at what far left activists are doing in the real world. And as a reminder, people, I literally have a fucking PhD. I know how to speak academic. I know how to read academic. The problem with James's and Logan's approach is that they take academic papers and they think that's a direct translation to what goes on in the real world. But the reason I focus on real world activism and what people are teaching each other in the real world is this. Academic papers are not meant to be a direct translation to the real world. Academic papers are meant to be applied in the real world. And sometimes it's a direct translation, but a lot of times it's not, because real life is messy. Human beings are not a science experiment, and people do different things than you expect them to do. And if James and Logan had taken the time to watch primary source evidence, this would not be confusing to them. But they refused to do it, so fuck them. I'm sick of this shit, and I'm sick of pretending that an academic paper that was written decades ago is a reflection of what is going on in the real world today. Queer theory primarily targets children for a few reasons. I don't believe queer theory does primarily target children, but where I will agree with James is that queer theory certainly has the greatest impact on children right now. Adults have to take responsibility for themselves. So while I do not believe that queer theory only targets children, that is the audience that I'm actually most worried about. Also autistic people, but that's kind of secondary. And of course, autistic children are probably the not the trifecta, but whatever that is for two, I guess. We see that it's happening, obviously, but it's worth exploring why and how. This is why there are so many inappropriate books, drag queen story hour, shows, displays, parades, flags, so on, involving kids. Well, that's true enough, but we know, James, because we've heard them say this, is that this is all about teaching kids that gender is performative and fluid and ever changing. That is what this is about. It is about teaching children that gender is fluid and performative and ever changing, and that they can change their gender as easy as they can change an outfit. And all of this is to cause the abolition of the gender binary, to make everyone literally non binary, no binary. That's what non binary means, by teaching kids that gender is fluid and ever changing and they can change it as easily as changing an outfit. That's what this is about, James. It's not about anything else other than that. The main reasons queer theory targets kids is because they're usually a captive audience, true. They're vulnerable and still developing, also true. They lack the cortical and psychosocial development necessary to distinguish fantasy from reality, true. They're a wedge to their parents. Okay, well, we have this is fine. It's not wrong about anything in that tweet. Thank the Lord. A shocking amount of queer education and queer psychological literature is focused on the idea of overcoming childhood innocence through initiation, their word, which queer theory frames as the dominant narrative to protect privilege. Privilege means capitalism, and straighten kids. This is all about the gender binary. James has completely misinterpreted what they mean by initiation. If he think James is trying to say this is about grooming kids, it's not about grooming kids. I know this is every conservative's favorite story. This is not about grooming kids. Queer theorists and activists are well aware that queer theory is developmentally inappropriate for children. Well, actually, no, they don't actually agree with that, James. Now, you can disagree with them, but if I were to ask actual queer activists that, they would not agree with you on that. Especially younger ones who are still undergoing core identity formation. So rather than respect the legitimacy, they oppose it on principle and queer development. That's not exactly true. Queer theorists even have a name they sometimes use for problematic of respecting developmental appropriateness, developmentalism, which is a belief that there's a legitimate developmental track for children to undergo as they mature. They think this is evil, wrong, and evil. Well, James, what they're basically saying there is that different children develop differently. That, again, you don't have to agree with them, but how James is interpreting this is not correct. I'm sorry. It's just not. Not correct. Because kids lack the cortical and psychosocial development necessary to repel queer Gnostics. He's actually fucking calling them queer Gnostics. Shoot me now. Not really. I didn't kill myself. He's actually calling them queer Gnostics. To repel the queer Gnostic delusions and are undergoing identity formation in various stages, they are particularly vulnerable to queer theory's influences. Adults are far less groomable, in other words. Well, that's true enough, James. That's true enough. But you know what? That's a really fancy way, James, of saying kids learn things differently than adults. The whole point, James, is to make children a part of the collective, to be little comrades. That is the point. In short, this has been short apparently, kids are learning who they are and at an age young enough even what they are. Queer activists, cultists, hijack this process and any attendant confusion and vulnerability, often which they manufacture first, leads kids into an identity crisis and eventually queerness. What James should be saying here is that what the queer activists are doing is teaching children as early as possible that gender is fluid and ever changing and non-binary, and leading them to believe that their gender is nothing more than a performance. That's what he means. Queerness, it must be understood, has very little to do with one's sexuality at all. True. It's not a state of being, as you see below in academic language. It's a political position. Also true, James. Congratulations. Opposed to normalcy and legitimacy. Normalcy and legitimacy mean capitalism. Framed as being opposed to having to be normal. Being normal is being capitalist, James. It's about separating and liberating kids from the capitalist normalcy, James. It's a really simple fucking concept, James. I was just scanning this real quick to see if I saw capitalism. Hang on, let's just read this. Unlike gay identity, though, which deliberately proclaimed in an act of affirmation is nonetheless rooted in positive fact of homosexual objective choice, queer identity need not be grounded in any positive truths or stable reality. Okay, I agree with that. And as a very simple word, queer does not name natural, kind, or for detriment object. It requires meaning, which is it acquires its meaning from its opposition to the norm. Queer is by definitions whatever is at odds with the normal. That this is what's his fucking name? What is his fucking name? Halprin? Is that who this is? I think so. Anyway. The normal, the legitimate, and the dominant means capitalist, James. Queer isn't something based in reality, true. Or in other words, like gay identity, it's a political stance opposing normalcy and legitimacy, capitalism. Why? No. Holy shit. Rottweiler, you're going to lose your shit. James is saying that the reason they're opposing normalcy and legitimacy is for sexual reasons. No, James. Normalcy and legitimacy means capitalism. Have we ever heard a single queer Marxist talk about sexualizing children? We have listened to hundreds of hours of queer Marxist and queer theory training and gender ideology training. We've listened to college classes. We've listened to socialist lectures. We've listened to trainings that take place and are government funded in the workplace. Have we ever once, one time, in the hundreds of hours of this shit that we've watched, heard a queer activist talk about sexualizing kids? I'm being serious. If we heard this at some point and I just don't remember it, and I'm pretty sure I would remember that, like, correct me, fact check me, but you can go back. I've got all this logged on my channel, literally hundreds of hours of it. We have never once, that I can remember, heard anyone talk about sexualizing kids. Because the goal of queer theory, the goal of queer activism is to abolish the gender binary as an attack on capitalism and the nuclear family. That is what they care about. But he has to keep the groomer grift alive, doesn't he? It's all about the money, honey. Then why isn't he making it? See, these James Lindsay stands really piss me off. Like, I've had so many James Lindsay stands come into my feed and go, James mentioned capitalism once in a 4-hour podcast about Marcuse, so I just don't know what you're all so upset about. He mentioned capitalism that one time, bitch. I heard him say the word. James is literally writing a 28 tweet thread about something that is explicitly about abolishing capitalism. No, bro, no, there's not so many layers. The reason that you think there are so many layers is because James has completely fucked up your head in regard to this. There are not that many layers. This is about abolishing the gender binary, which is an attack on capitalism and the nuclear family. That is it. And if James has told you any differently than that, and we know that he has, oh, because you're not fucking listening. That's why the hostility. You're not listening. He is lying to people, and the lies that he tells people are going to result in their kids getting taken away from them because they don't understand what he's fucking talking about. How would you like that? No, bro, you don't. Explain it back to me then. Let's put our little James Lindsay stand on the spot. What is the goal of queer Marxism? Explain it to us right now like we're five. And we'll sit here and we'll wait for you to explain it to us. We've even got your hero live on the screen right here. Explain queer theory to us like we're five. No one in the chat help him. No one in the chat give him any hints. Explain it to us. You say you understand it. Let's see what James has taught you. Explain it to us. Oh, you can't explain it to us. The James Lindsay stand who just assured us we can explain this. Promise. James has told us explain. We can do this. I promise, bro. James has been very clear. Says no one understands what the fucking communists are talking about. We do. You do not. And the reason you don't understand is because you're listening to James and he is confusing the shit out of you and you can't even answer the most basic fucking question. Do you want to give it another try, bro? Because my audience can explain this. Once you fail to explain it to us, what this is based on all the things James has taught you, then I'm going to ask my audience to explain it, and they're all going to be able to fucking do it. The reason you can't do this and the reason you don't know what the fucking communists are talking about is that James refuses to explain this in a clear and concise manner. My audience can do this right now, bro. Would you like to see us do it? I feel like we've given you enough time. You haven't come back with anything yet that represents any sort of definition of queer Marxism or queer theory. So now I'm going to ask my audience. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Let me give you a couple super chats, bro. I'll give you 2 super chats that I have to read for you to come back and explain to us what queer Marxism is, and then I'm going to have my audience do it for you. He says the right's reaction is the left's action overused the term groomer, partnered with Moms for Liberty, and then used the term on 60 Minutes, which they then painted them as zealots. Seems like he's creating the reaction. James is very literally creating the fucking reaction right now. I agree with that. Rottweiler, thank you for the member chat. The only one here to ever vaguely mention about sexualizing youth was Hannah Dyer in Queer for... We didn't even watch that. I don't even think we even watched that. You guys wanted me to watch it, but we didn't watch it. The rest of queer Marxists don't quote her. Yeah, she's like off on her own island somewhere. So let's see. Has our friend... Okay, so this is our friend's definition of queer Marxism. Dude, I listen to you all the time. No, you don't. No, you don't. No need for the hostility. They want to control the social means of production. What does that mean? Oh, it's my fault that you can't define queer Marxism. I got it. You had to pause for belligerence. Oh, you did you? I want my audience to define what queer Marxism is right now. Let's educate the James Lindsay stan, who is never in my audience, never in my chat, cannot give you a cohesive definition of queer theory, queer Marxism. Let's hear my audience explain it. What is queer theory? What is queer Marxism? Explain it in any way you want. Go ahead. The goal of queer Marxism is to abolish the gender binary, to destroy the nuclear family because it upholds and reproduces capitalism. Queer Marxism is that branch of Marxism that seeks to abolish capitalism by dismantling the gender binary and thus the nuclear family. The goal of queer Marxism is to abolish the gender binary because capitalism created the gender binary, in which created the nuclear family. The nuclear family is the means of production of capitalism via social reproduction theory. I know, my tone is so mean, but apparently my audience knows more than James's audience does, and so the mean bitch taught people what queer theory is, where James is talking about some Gnostic fucking fantasy that he's made up. Queer Marxism is to go against cultural norms that have nothing to do with sex or sexuality. It has to do with destroying the gender binary and abolishing capitalism, James. Queer theory is about abolishing the gender binary. Queer Marxism is the application of Marxism as a political identity to destroy the normal, meaning capitalism is defined as private property ownership. Queer Marxism aims to abolish the gender binary, which upholds capitalism. Jerry says the abolishment of the nuclear family because of capitalism. Queer the family to end capitalism. It's a political movement against the norm. Well, you couldn't define this, bro. You had many opportunities to define this. Now I've got a whole chat doing what you couldn't do because James never taught you. You don't know what you're talking about. And this is the problem. This is why I am openly hostile, because this is a serious fucking problem that is resulting in people's children being taken away. And if people do not understand this because James Lindsay is refusing to fucking teach it, but they think they do because James said really complicated things on the fucking internet, that is going to result in people's children being taken away. My audience can explain it. So obviously there is a way that queer Marxism, queer theory can be taught in a simplified, concise way that average people can understand it. James Lindsay is refusing to do it. And not only is James Lindsay refusing to do it, James Lindsay is telling his audience to block people who are. You want to know why I'm hostile? Because James Lindsay is now ordering his audience to block my audience because my audience is explaining queer theory in a succinct and focused way. And I'm going to prove that in this stream because we have the screenshots of it. You want to know why I'm hostile? His actions are going to result in people losing their kids. That's why. That's why. And now you can go. You are officially banned. You are no longer welcome here. The means of production is you. Exactly. Exactly. And there are more correct definitions in the chat. But let's continue with James's 28 tweet thread. Kids feed this destructive queer Marxist theory, or fed, will turn around and identify their parents as potential threats, if not potential recruits. That's true, but not for the reasons that James is explaining. If parents can't be made affirming, adopt or support queer theory, they face losing their kids to the cult, join or die. Well, some people are going to lose their kids, James. Some people are. And part of the reason they're going to lose them is because they don't understand what the fuck is happening around them. The weaponization of children against their parents is not new to Marxist application, as Mao Zedong in particular displayed during the Cultural Revolution, but queer theory does in a way, and it takes it to a height that's difficult to contemplate in its grotesque horror. Well, all that's true, James, but it doesn't actually mean anything. It isn't just schools that are pushing this, it's the medical complex, exposed in WPATH files, or entertainment, major corporations, duh. Yeah, we've already talked about that. The purpose are the same and could merit their own thread, generative themes, normalization, renormalization. But the question is to why so much corporate activity shows up, Now he's going into ESG, which has nothing to do. By the way, the ESG bullshit has nothing to do with the people pushing queer Marxism. Two different people, two different groups, completely different groups. Something about Doritos, ESG, blah, 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 corporate equity, blah, 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 more ESG, blah, blah, blah. But go buy my book and I'll explain more there. Okay. So we got through the entire thread, and it seems as though James Lindsay has written an entire thread about queer theory in which he does not explain that it's about abolishing the gender binary, and he does not say it's about abolishing capitalism. In fact, doesn't even use the word capitalism. And this would be offensive enough. This right here would be offensive enough to anyone who has bothered to actually listen to queer Marxists and queer theorists in real life. But that's not all James did. James, well, let me go back. So Reagan saw this. And again, Reagan is basically like the nicest person in the world. Reagan retweeted James, which is here, and said, James is missing a crucial point in his thread. To Marxists, Queer is at odds with the normal. When they say normal, they're talking about the system of capitalism that created the gender binary as a social construct. Queer attacks the gender binary and capitalism. All correct. Beautiful. A beautiful, this didn't even contradict anything that James said. Reagan didn't call James out on the Gnostic bullshit. Reagan didn't say, it's not about grooming, James, it's about teaching that gender is performative. Reagan didn't do any of those things. Reagan very nicely said, James is missing one crucial point. This is about capitalism and the gender binary. That's all she said. And then she posted this image that I made saying, queer is a far left political ideology intended to destabilize the system, specifically focused on abolishing the gender binary, has nothing to do with being queer or trans. All that is true. None of that well, it does contradict what James said a little bit. And then she posted this, how gender relates to capitalism. The left believes capitalism created the gender binary. Men get paid in the workplace, have power. Women do unpaid labor in the home, are oppressed. Abolishing the gender binary is an attack on capitalism. The gender binary / queer theory is meant to abolish the gender binary. Non-binary, they, them pronouns, literally means no binary. Abortion frees women from the gender binary. All that's true. And then she linked to, she had this screenshot, which is from my Substack. Their only goal is to abolish capitalism, which is defined as private property ownership. That was all Reagan did. And then Reagan posted this. Absolutely unbelievable. Within the hour, James Lindsay blocked me for correctly pointing out that queer theory relates to Marxists attacking the gender binary and ultimately capitalism and private property. Carlin, James sounds more like controlled opposition to me every day. Within 1 hour of Reagan retweeting James and very nicely saying this is about capitalism and the gender binary, James Lindsay blocked her on Twitter. And I was going to let all this go because it's kind of funny, haha. Reagan's actually been trying to get blocked by James for a really long time. He hadn't done it yet. So we were actually excited, like Reagan got her block, okay, because James is blocking a lot of my audience. But then James did something I didn't expect. Then James did something I just did not see coming. James retweeted Reagan, and his response to being gently corrected about capitalism and the gender binary is, this bullshit is tedious. It's also coordinated and bait. Block as enthusiastically as I do when you see it. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this. This actually isn't as coordinated as James Lindsay seems to think it is. I have a community of people that's been watching socialism and far left trainings with me for 3 years. Reagan has been in my audience in almost every single stream I've done for 3 years. And I got to tell you guys, my audience, we do communicate. I communicate with my most avid supporters. We have certainly talked about trying to get James to say the word capitalism, but this isn't some big coordinated effort. This is like, ha ha, isn't this fun? Isn't this funny? But mostly, James, my audience was really pissed off when I reacted to you like a week and a half ago when you weren't explaining basic concepts, and they've decided to take it into their own hands, James. We're not even really coordinating all that much. I got like way too much other shit to do, bro. We might joke about being a cult, but you're the one running a cult, James, because you're the one literally telling people to block anyone who tries to tell people that this is about capitalism and the gender binary. Could it be, James? Could it be that my audience that sits here with me for dozens of hours a week watching far left socialism, could it be, James, that my audience has learned better than your audience what is actually going on, and they're starting to get really pissed at you for lying to your audience? The reality is this, bro. I don't have to tell my audience to do anything. I was making clips tonight when Reagan was doing this on Twitter. I had no idea what was going on till after. I don't have to tell my audience to do anything, James. Reagan has watched almost as much queer Marxism as I have. She knows her stuff. She teaches this to people every day, and she got pissed off at you for not defining it correctly. Because you literally have one job, James. And you wrote an entire book where I made a couple of graphics explaining everything more succinctly that you took an entire book to explain. It's bait because it delegitimizes his book. That's exactly right. What James Lindsay is worried about here is a book launch. That is what James is worried about. A book launch. How woke has James gone? I mean, I have no idea, bro, but this seems pretty fucking woke to me. When James Lindsay is incapable of having someone politely say to him, James, queer theory is about abolishing capitalism and the gender binary, which I'm sorry, anyone that has watched like half an hour worth of any queer activist training knows that it's about abolishing capitalism and the gender binary, because queer activists cannot help themselves but to say it's about abolishing the gender binary and capitalism within like the first half an hour of any presentation. You guys can Google, you don't believe me? Google the phrase beyond the binary. What do you think that means? Do you know how many podcasts are called Beyond the Binary? Do you know how many training programs are called Beyond the Binary? What do people think that means exactly? Abolishing the gender binary means no binary, means non-binary. That's what it is. Why isn't James explaining that to his audience? This is not about a Gnostic fucking sex cult. It's just not. That I like how people are buying into this. It's like watching a fucking it's like watching a fiction. It's like watching like a farce, a myth be created right in front of me. This is not grounded in reality at all. I'm sorry, it's just not. Guess he's still butthurt about the say capitalism meme. Well, James is going to get more and more butthurt because I'm not, like, now that we know we're triggering James like this, fuck him. He wants to tell people to block my audience for telling the truth. James, I'm just going to double down on this now, bro. You tried to make an example of like the nicest fucking person on the internet, James. You thought that's going to scare me away? Have we fucking met? Yeah, James, don't try to prove your point. Just block and rage behind a block just like a leftist would. The irony is James is the atheist is running his own fundamentalist church by default. Yes, he is. Let me see. I'm just scrolling through the chat, guys. Well, that is the key to it, isn't it? Is Gnostic sex count sounds a lot better for conservatives who are outraged over sex on at every opportunity. Some cult I know, I turned out to be like the greatest cult leader in the history of the world. I can't even control my own audience. Busy making clips on the internet, wasn't even paying attention to Twitter. All of a sudden, James is telling people to block my damn audience. James's audience, this is the problem too, because Nick isn't blocked yet, so Nick can see all this. Nick is now telling us James's audience is mocking and rolling their eyes about it being capitalism. When anyone who has watched, again, like this isn't hard, guys. All of this training is archived on my channel. You literally don't have to take my word for it. You can go and watch them say it for yourself. We actually, for people who might be new, my audience, every day we watch a woke training, people place bets on who is going to say capitalism first. This is how predictable that this type of training will always and forever say capitalism and make the entire thing about capitalism. We literally have a game we play where we place bets about who's going to be the first to say capitalism and when are they going to say it. But no, James Lindsay's audience does not understand that this is about capitalism. They don't understand it at all. And the reason they don't understand it at all is that James refuses to use the word capitalism and explain that it is private property ownership. That is what the definition is. Because why talk about what's happening in the real world when you could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about a Gnostic fucking sex cult? Bro. Gnostic sex cult is Satanic Panic 4.0. James is currently leading his own satanic panic right now. And I think it's really sad. Again, like, I think that James is a legitimate genius. I think that he has done so much. I, more than most people, can understand how this bullshit can get in your head and make you crazy. It has absolutely driven me crazy watching so many hours of this stuff. So I get it. I really do. And I actually have great sympathy. But I'm not running around the internet saying this is a Gnostic fucking sex cult to make money. I may be fucking crazy, but everything I say on the internet about who the left is and what they're doing is backed up with primary source video evidence. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not like James going out, pinky swear, trust me, bro, it's a Gnostic sex cult. Don't worry, I'm not going to provide any receipts. Just trust me, trust me. Why would I lie to you? As he takes your money and puts it in his pocket. You don't have to take my word for anything because everything I say is backed up with evidence. Go back and watch. Got thousands of hours of it. They're saying Carlin thinks it's all about capitalism. It is all about capitalism. You know what? Good. Let James's audience say Carlin thinks it's all about capitalism because maybe, just maybe, that's going to actually sound like a more reasonable explanation than it being about a Gnostic fucking sex cult. Like, can we just go, what is it? Occam's razor? The simplest explanation is probably the correct one. Do you think Marxists want to abolish capitalism? Or do you think that Marxists want to be creating and maintaining a Gnostic sex cult? I don't know. When I went undercover at those socialist events, there was a lot of talk about capitalism. I didn't even see one invite for a Gnostic sex cult. I can't imagine which one it actually is. Block anyone who questions the gospel of Lindsay. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, to be very clear, James is allowed to block whoever he wants. I block people all the time. I don't have any problem with James blocking people. James blocking people is not the point. It's when James blocks people and then says, go block Carlin's entire audience. It's a coordinated effort against me. Oh my God. When literally all she did was say, James, it's about capitalism and the gender binary. He can block whoever he wants. I don't give a flying fuck. It's when he demands his fucking cultists block mine because James doesn't like people saying the word capitalism. Oh my word. How else are they going to pander to the Bible thumping reactionaries? Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, James, we watch this stuff literally live, bro. We don't need you to tell us what it means, bro. We watch it on the internet. We watch them say it directly. What's wild is that there's no real good reason not to say capitalism. I bet right wingers would still get angry. Only reason I can think of involves making sure the problem is not fixed. Why would James want to make sure that the problem is not fixed? Why would James be so committed to not fixing the problem? Why wouldn't James want his audience to know that this all goes back to abolishing capitalism by attacking the gender binary? Could it be that the worse the problem gets, the more money James makes? I don't know that for sure. It's just a guess, just a hypothesis. I could be wrong. You guys can make up your own mind. They don't understand that they're up against communists, which is funny, isn't it? Because James literally says Marxist in his tweets and then tries to pretend that Marxists don't want to abolish capitalism, as though no one's ever read the Communist Manifesto before. He's creating another reaction. The question is, has he lost the plot, or is he just the other side of the dialectic? That's a good question, Jenny. I don't know the answer to that. James Lindsay and Deb Philman need to get laid together. Well, not with each other. We would never imply that separately. But perhaps that would help with their significant others. Oh, don't I know it? I am riding my time to my grand I told you so. It's right there. I can see it. I'm already feeling pretty fucking validated. I'm already feeling pretty good. James is proving every single point I've been making about him for weeks. And James, if you think you can get us to stop by blocking us, there are these things called sock accounts, bro. Do you think we don't know how to create sock accounts? You want to show us you're this triggered and then we can get to you by simply explaining to people that this is about abolishing capitalism and the gender binary? Do you think we're above creating sock accounts, bro? Don't fucking bet on it. How do you think I was able to view your tweets tonight, James? James Lindsay is the male version of Deb Fillman. It's so sad. So sad. Well, of course, the Moms for Liberty might be another reason that James is refusing to explain this to his audience. That could very well be. Naruto says, I inherently distrust anyone who tells me to trust them without evidence. And you know, with me, you never have to trust me. I never say, trust me, bro. I say, here's some video. Let's watch it and talk about it. Or I say, let me go record that shit and report back to you. I mean, I've actually thought about making a giant ass compilation video of just like, but it takes so much time. It's like I have so many things I need to do during the day. Maybe I should farm that out. Does if anyone wants to make a giant compilation video of a lot of socialists saying capitalism, I'll give you the clips, man. I know exactly where we can find them, but I just don't have the time to edit it all. I tried, it was too much. I wonder if he's playing into the conservative mindset that Marxists are mentally ill weirdos, have no goal of overthrowing capitalism, and can't be taken seriously. I do think that I mean, I think he's obviously grifting off of a conservative audience. James knows better than all of this. James knows they're trying to abolish capitalism. He refuses to fucking say it. So the only conclusion that I can come to is that he's grifting and saying what the audience wants to hear. Can't sell more books if the problem gets solved. That's exactly right. James now has a vested interest in selling outrage as a solution instead of an actual solution. Well, he probably knows we're going to lose. Probably knows we're going to lose. It's simple. Sexual progress is something conservatives can't reverse, no matter how much they quibble over semantics. James knows these reactionaries are giving him clout with his Gnostic sex cult. I cannot fucking believe that we are having a serious conversation led by James Lindsay, where he is saying the core of queer theory is a Gnostic sex cult. Like, does this feel truly and sincerely, does this feel like an out of body experience for anyone else? Where you're like, where the fuck did you go, James? Where the fuck did you go, bro? What happened? Part of me is actually kind of worried for him. If this is like, and I say that sincerely, I don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want anyone to like be unwell. But what the fuck happened? Was it always this unhinged, or did we just learn more? A Gnostic sex cult? Really, bro? Really? Because I went on a self-managed abortion tour. I saw a self-managed abortion shrine. I've seen some crazy shit going undercover at socialist events, James. I really have. You know what I've never fucking seen? A Gnostic sex cult. James wrong on queer and decolonization, even though queer is literally to decolonize. That's right, James. To queer is literally to decolonize. Why does my audience know that and yours don't? Anyway, I'm about done ranting. I've lost my voice. That's why I don't give a fuck about Carlin's tone as long as there are receipts and principles. And I will always have receipts and I will always have principles. And guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year. I will always give you receipts for every single thing that I say. I will give you video. I will give you primary source evidence. We are doing 2 spy streams this week where I'm taking you inside live woke trainings so you can see for yourself in literally real time what they are teaching and how the left is doing what they're doing. I do this 6 days a week on this channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you do all the things, because if you want the truth, It is painfully obvious that you're not going to get it from James. You're going to get the Gnostic fucking sex cult. I will never do this shit to you guys. I can't get away with it. I quite literally can't get away with what James is getting away with his audience, because everything I do is grounded in video. So you can see for yourself. You don't have to take my word for anything. And I will never come up with some sort of crazy fucking idea like queer theory is a Gnostic fucking sex cult. Naruto, thank you for the member chat. Good night. Good night. All right, guys. Let's get up in the morning and do it again, shall we? Go create your sock accounts. I don't care how James feels about it. He can cry and complain and whine, and his followers can re. But at the end of the day, his followers don't know how to define queer theory, and my followers do. And not only do my followers know how to define it, they can do it in like 2 sentences. So I'm going to call that a win. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you soon. Bye.